Hey, what's going on, everybody? Cheetah what? No. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. I'm going to go over different investing strategies. This is portfolio allocation just to show you, like, put some numbers to it and some different, some numbers to a different strategy. I know these are kind of hypothetical strategies here and hypothetical returns, but I'm going to give you a scenario of why I spread my money out to reduce risk, to reduce volatility, and to reduce if something were to really bad happen, like a bankruptcy or two. And then also the probability of getting a very large return on one or two of the companies. What does that look like? So I'm going to go over these different strategies. I think there's four that I created to drive home the point that I want to. So this is what is given. This is our given information. We've got a normally distributed curve. That's just a bell curve. And the tails return are 0% and 100,000%. That's a thousand bagger there for a bull market. And that's what companies have done in previous returns in previous bull markets. The mean return was 40x for a sector during last bull market for small cap companies in that sector. And that was a medium return. 20 small cap companies in the sector today exist. And we have a $20,000 total investment. Remember, this is a hypothetical scenario. I'm not telling you it's a uranium sector or an oil sector. It's just this is a hypothetical scenario. How should we distribute the money? So a little bit more information. Of those 20 companies, one's going to return 1,000x, one's going to return 100x. And on the other side, two companies return 0x. Those are in our high risk area. The mean of all of these is 40x of the 20 companies. So we know that the average or mean of the 20 companies returns 40 times. 1/3 of the companies show characteristics of the potential of returning 100 to 1,000x. That means that 1/3 of the companies, 7 companies in total, roughly, of the 20, so that means 13 do not exhibit it, but 7 do, that could potentially return 100 to 1,000x. So we invest the money. So we've got 4 strategies that I'm going to try to test here. Strategy 1 is to take a lower risk approach and only invest in the no debt companies. Strategy 2 is to invest in 3 companies only because we can research these companies extensively. Strategy 3 is to invest in all 20 and divide the money up equally. We just say, screw it, I'm going to put $1,000 in each. And strategy 4, we invest in most, but weight certain companies differently. So we invest in all 20, but we're going to weight some of the ones a little bit differently. So strategy 1, this is the no debt company. Typically, the no debt companies don't get driven into the ground as much as companies with debt. They don't have that extreme valuation. So the valuations of the pounds in the ground, if you were to use a uranium company, and of that company doesn't seem the extremes of a company that doesn't have money. So they either don't have money and they're share diluting, or they have debt. So bad market conditions favor companies with no debt, because with no debt, they don't get driven into the ground. This strategy will likely return the mean and probably end up with 10 companies in the sector. So $20,000 turns into $800,000 for the investment. This strategy will likely return the mean and probably end up with, that's just saying you're going to end up with about half the companies in the sector, about 10 of them. And if you invest in companies with no debt, you're not going to get any of the extreme valuations. You're not really going to get any that go to 0, and you're not going to get the 100 bagger or the 1,000 bagger that we have in this scenario. So your return is going to be $800,000 for this investment. So the next strategy is you research the heck out of them, and you only use 3 companies. So we research the companies and we end up liking a few of the companies. Most people prefer companies that are safer than riskier, because remember, you're deploying all of your money into only 3 companies. So your research indicates that these 3 companies are the best, and you choose a somewhat risky company, you choose a middle risk company, and a more conservative company. This strategy really could vary a bit since you could have picked a bad, risky company. So $20,000 could return between $600,000 to $7 million if you got lucky. There's a 14% chance of picking the best winner in the group, but also you have a 28.5% chance of picking a return of 0%. So you have a good likelihood that you could end up at a $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 scenario. So that's if you were to choose 3 companies. And you know what? We don't exactly know how to pick a risky company because you're going to have to go after something that's of great value that has been pushed into the ground, but you don't know if they can survive or not. And one of those is probably your big winner. So that strategy 3 is to invest in all equally. We invest in all 20 equally, 1,000 at each company. We obtain all returns of the sector. So we have 640,000 that the 16, that's the average of those 16. We have one that returns 1.1 million is returned from 2 of them because you had one at 100x and one at 1,000x. And then we had 2 companies that went to 0. So we had 2 that were just bomb out zeros. The return of this is 1,740,000 is this return. Now, the one thing I wanted to notice is that I did zero research on this. I just put money into all of the entire sector, spent 0 time researching it, and my return beat the person who chose and looked at all the companies with no debt. In fact, I doubled their return. They went from 20,000 to 800, and I did 1.74 million. So that's one strategy there. Strategy 4 is we overweight some of the companies. So let's overweight the companies with low dollars of pounds in the ground and high potential. We have a good likelihood of picking a loser, though. We do. So we 1.5 times weight the high potential, high risk companies in that sector. So I take $1,500. So we overweighted them just a little bit by 7 of them. Because remember, in the original one, 7 companies in total are the ones that could possess the 100 to 1,000 baggers. So that's what we did. We did our work to see which ones could potentially be big winners. We put the 1,500 in 7 of them. That's $10,500 of investment, and then we put $730 in the rest of the 13. That's $9,500. The return would be 1.5 million plus 150,000 plus 0 because those are our zeros, plus 120,000 plus 380, which is $2.15 million. So if you're overweight the correct companies and you win, that gives you a higher return with less risk. About a 10% chance of randomly picking both companies right, but I think it is much higher if you do research of the companies, if you want to overweight and get really picky with it. Of the 7, let's say. This one, I just said, let's just overweight all 7. But there's other ways that you could do this if you did a lot of research to overweight the more risky companies with greater potentials. So the comparison here, I'm going to compare all the strategies. Strategy 1 is to take a lower risk approach and only invest in the no debt companies, the ones that, quote, have good fundamental balance sheets that everybody praises about. Well, your return's $800,000. Strategy 2 is to invest in 3 companies only because we can research these companies extensively, and that's going to vary quite substantially. It's from $600,000 to $7 million. But I'll tell you what, I highly doubt that you're going to pick the risky companies. So it's probably going to be close to strategy 1. Strategy 3 is to invest in all 20. Screw it, I'm going to do all 20 and divide the money up equally. Well, that's 1.74 million. That's absolutely killing the first 2 strategies, is to not even do any analysis and just dump it amongst all of them. And strategy 4 is we invest in most, but weight certain companies differently. So we know that some of these companies are going to be killers. You have to be an explorer to developer and then to develop. Now, if we grabbed all of those companies that did that were all explorers to developers and just put a little bit of money in all of them and overweight those, we would win. And we would win bigger than all the other strategies. We'd be 2.15 million from a $20,000 investment. So that is the strategy, in my opinion. That is the one that I use and deploy is strategy 4, which is linked with strategy 3. So I get money spread out amongst all of the companies, and then I overweight the ones that have extreme valuations, but people don't like. They don't like them because, oh, they don't have money. I can't envision them getting money for their projects. And I'm like, ooh, it just created that nice valuation for me. So those are the ones that I target. Those are the ones that I overweight, which is exactly opposite of everyone else. I know that sounds weird. So what strategy are you using? I'm using strategy 3 and 4 combined. I used an equal weight system and then favor companies that I think could hit it big. I favor companies that are explorers and developers. I favor companies that have good exploration properties that I know quite a bit about. And I spread the money out a lot because capturing an absolute killer return is the way to make outsized returns. Risk must be taken, but mitigated through portfolio allocation. That is how you make money. It's not researching the heck out of it, knowing everything about the company, reading every single news release. How do you know how the market's going to value that stuff anyway? Now, if you have a good company and they're valued kind of highly in the beginning, that's not the one that's going to be the big guy. That's not going to be the big returner. Now, if you have something that you just got in that has good management that's just in the beginning, that's one that gets me highly interested because the value is not there yet. Everyone's looking at it going, that's just a piece of land. Well, they've got management and they're going to develop that land into a producer. They know how to do it. They've got the experience. So you want to buy these management teams that are good, that have done it before, that are very early in the process. Those are the companies that have me just really, really excited. Now, there's other companies that are also very good. The commodity goes to hell, like oil did in last year when it went to negative. Those companies were hurting so bad. And I felt so bad for them because they all just got pile drived right into the ground. SM Energy was one of them. It's a large company that was selling for pennies on the dollar at the bottom. And I was like, I'll pick these pennies up. These pennies are going to be worth hundreds of dollars each. Your hunter bagger right there if you didn't do the math. But get your get some of those companies that were driven into the ground. Nobody wants them. They got high debt. And in an inflationary period, when we have inflation, the price of those commodities are going to go up because there's an inflation component in that commodity price. That right there means that the debt that they own will be inflated away through the commodity price that they are selling. Makes sense. So their debt is actually a good thing if you have inflation, if the commodity prices come back. That's when that technical analysis, you got to lean on that really hard to see when that price is going to pop to the upside so the companies can survive. The best thing for all of these companies, if you're a commodity company, the number one and most important thing is price of the commodity. That is it. So this is why I use the strategy. I put numbers to it so everyone else can understand. I just do this stuff off the top of my head because I'm so used to it. I've done a lot of statistics and we'll call it in my professional career. I used it in college. I've done statistical analysis, linear regression analysis, on and on and on and on. So this is why I use this strategy. I do not read a book on it. I came up with it myself. A lot of this stuff you can just come up with yourself if you've gone through statistics and have looked at the markets. So this is my strategy. Take it for if you want to, go ahead and use it, deploy it. But this is why I have it. If you guys have any questions, leave some comments below. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And hopefully this helps you out in this next commodity bull market. Thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.